Did you know that there have been over 900 translations of the Bible into English? Do you really need all of those translations? Well, today I'm going to share with you my top 3 picks for you to get an accurate understanding of the scriptures, to go deep into the scriptures. And as an instructor of biblical Greek at Biblical Mastery Academy, I'm deeply interested in how the original languages are conveyed into English. Now, I'm only representing my own views and not representing those of Biblical Mastery Academy or any other group or association that I'm involved with, but I do want to share with you what would be my top 3 picks. So I want you to stay with me to the end, because at the end of this, I'm going to share with you why I think those 3 translations, and really all 900 translations into English, still don't quite capture what goes on in the original and what you can do to try to remedy that. So let's get right into it. So my first translation choice, and this would be very personal, there's a lot of people who would disagree with me on this first translation choice, would either be the King James Version or the New King James Version. And the reason for that might not be what you think it is. It's not because I'm KJV only or anything like that. It's because I think the King James Version has this great history and legacy. If you're a native English speaker, you will recognize that the King James Version has become part of the DNA, as it were, of our language. It's so woven into our language. It's, I think, the most beautiful translation that's ever been done in the English language. It's so majestic and it's glorious. And I think that if you haven't taught your children some passages out of the King James Version, they're going to be a little bit deprived, because so much of our language has derived from the King James Version. It's also a good translation. It's archaic. It has some places which would be difficult to understand. That's why I brought in maybe an idea of you might want to switch that out for the NKJV if the King James Version language is too difficult for you to understand. But it's a very literal rendering of the Greek. As someone who has worked with the Greek New Testament for himself, I can tell you that the King James Version is very, very close to what the original Greek wording is. And some people would argue sometimes too close. The neat thing about the NKJV is that it has a lot of textual notes. So when our manuscript traditions disagree, the NKJV is really good at bringing that out. And it's been modernized so you don't have so many of these false friends and things that are difficult for modern speakers to understand. So one of those 2 translations would be my first choice. My second choice would actually be the Legacy Standard Bible. This one's sort of catching on, but it's also a very close translation of the Greek, very close sometimes. In fact, the Legacy Standard Bible works really hard to translate Greek words and Hebrew words wherever possible with the same English equivalent. And so there's been times that I've looked at the Legacy Standard Bible and it's captured something in the Greek that no other English translation that I consulted really captured. And so I really value the Legacy Standard Bible. Now, we're not getting into textual traditions and the Textus Receptus versus the modern critical text today. That's a different discussion for a different time. But as far as a good translation, modern translation, the Legacy Standard Bible is a very close rendering of the Greek. It's an update from the New American Standard Bible, which was an update from the American Standard Version, which actually was an update of the King James Version. So it's still in that tradition. Now, the third choice I'm going to give you, the third one that I would take with me, is probably this Net Bible. Maybe not this particular physical edition of it, but the Net Bible. And the reason I say the Net Bible is not because I think the translation is so good. Although the translation is good, it takes a lot of liberty, more liberty than I would be willing to take in some of its translations. But it's been done by a really good group of scholars. But what's really beneficial about this translation is its textual notes. It has very in-depth scholarly notes. And where the King James Version and the Legacy Standard Bible or the NKJV might be a little hard to understand, sometimes the Net Bible does it in a way that's very understandable. It does that because it's making choices about what they think the text actually means rather than just translating the text sometimes. And so when they've done that, they've often provided a footnote explaining why they've done this. And sometimes the footnote will give you 3 or 4 different options of how you could understand this particular phrase. And so it's a really good scholarly source to look at some of these difficult textual decisions that are made sometimes. And so that's one that I would want to take with me, not just because of the value of the translation, but because of the textual notes that are very valuable. Well, I told you at the end of the video that I would share with you why English translations are in some way inadequate. They're not inadequate in order to walk with the Lord. You can get a deep understanding of the Bible just using an English translation. But there are some things in the original languages. I'm going to focus here on Greek because that's something that I've spent a good deal of time. It's something that I help other people learn. There are some things in the Greek language that don't map onto English perfectly. For example, you have third-person imperatives in Greek. We don't have those in English. And so when the Bible says, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me, that sounds like a permissive idea, like let him, allow him to do it. But it's a command. It's a third-person command in Greek, and English struggles to convey that same sense. And so there's a lot of things that are like that. And so if you want to go a little bit deeper in learning more about how to get behind the English translation, get back to the original languages, I've got a link in the description. You can follow that link, and there'll be a bit of a guide for you how you can go a little bit further, a little bit deeper in your Greek. So thanks for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.